Now, if you've been rocking with me for a little while, then you know that I've been saying that every man has a story, and that story soon becomes history or his story. And it all begins with our statement in style. And I was watching Clark Kegley's conversation on how to design your life, and it was based on his reading of Steve Jobs' autobiography. And it got me to thinking about Steve Jobs' style and how iconic his style was along with his innovations. There is some utility and some importance in being able to see yourself as a success, being able to see yourself as a person who is influential before we get to designing our life. So by the end of this video, you're going to have several concepts for you to try on so that you can see yourself as the successful person you are while you are designing your life. What's up, all you stylish storytellers? You know who it is, the cat in the hat, your resident fly guy, your chief architect, Michael Angel of StarArchitects.com, and welcome to A Dressing Room. Now, if this is your first time here, welcome. On this channel, I'm inviting you to step inside of yourself for you to try on some different concepts to see how they fit you. And if they fit you well, I promise that you are going to step out in style and telling your story without saying a word. And the best thing is, if it doesn't fit you, you can leave those concepts right here in the dressing room. So if that sounds like something that you would be interested in, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you can be notified each and every time new content comes out. Now, before we get started into how you can utilize Steve Jobs' perspective on having a more uniform style, understand that this is not about you having a minimalist lifestyle or a minimalist style in general. I mean, look at what I got. Now, if you do want to have a minimalist lifestyle, then leave me some comments in the comments below, and I will be more than happy to explore that further in helping you figure out how to develop a minimalist lifestyle. But this is really about you having a uniform. And if you've been rocking with me for a little while, then you know that a uniform is not only something that people can associate you with, especially if they see you over and over again. It's another way for you to inform the people around you when you're interacting with them as well. It's kind of like when somebody sees me out, they're usually going to associate me with some sort of element of fashion or style. And I used to get annoyed by this until I started realizing this is a great conversational opener for them to understand more about what I do and how I do it and what makes me different. So if you're a little bit more reserved, or you're a person who finds himself being a little bit more of an introvert, this is a great way for you to incite conversation without having to say a word at all. So in my opinion, one of the best things that you can have in your closet is a uniform. So we're going to go ahead and start at the bottom of Steve Jobs' style and talk about his shoes. Now, if you've been rocking with me for a little while, then you know that shoes are often going to be your foundation. They're going to be the stepping stones that allow you to move the way that you want to. And that actually went along with Steve Jobs' mindset. Even when it came to Apple as a company, he has always encouraged people who buy his products to think different. Maybe even when it was Macintosh. But in the early 90s, with the yuppie culture, with Wall Street, you know, where greed was good, everybody was dressing in padded, you know, Armani style types of suiting with a shirt and tie. So he was definitely thinking different with a much more casual attire, and may have even been the innovator in changing that image, for better or for worse. So Steve Jobs was rocking his New Balance 99X shoes. And the story goes that he was a big fan of New Balance and had been wearing them for a little while, and had actually become friends with the CEO, then Jim Davis, and he asked him to create a modern sneaker that was trendy and that still had a sporty look and sporty lines to it. And of course, with Steve Jobs being a major player in the tech space, Jim Davis acquiesced. Now, since then, I've actually found out that was cap, but it still makes for a good story. Now, how does that relate or correlate with your own style? Well, Steve Jobs had one shoe that he could wear over and over and over and over again. And when that one broke down, he was able to get a new pair relatively inexpensively. Now, if you're on this channel, then you're probably much more on the elevated state of shoes that you want to present yourself with. So maybe that's a brogue, maybe that's a whole cut, maybe that is a loafer of some sort. But in any case, you want to have something that you can get a lot of utility out of. And in another chapter of our style story, we'll talk about the one shoe that every guy should get in order to really build their wardrobe off of, and how you can get the most utility out of it. But if you're getting a quality shoe, then you have a shoe that can be resold and be repaired and be reworn. And the great thing about that is that once you have started to break in that quality leather and it is, you know, lived in, then you're getting a new pair of shoes essentially every time they are sold. And that's definitely going to change your movements, because you're not worried about your feet being uncomfortable while you're moving around throughout these sartorial streets. Now, the next thing that we have to think about that Steve Jobs was intentional with when it came to his uniform look was his trousers. And while a lot of us are kind of in this jeans space where everybody is wearing jeans, this was also something that was very uncommon for a guy to be wearing in the office, even on a casual Friday. So it was something that was very intentional, but also had a lot of utility. Hold on real quick. Y'all don't need to see me putting my pants on. All right. So it's important to understand that with your pants, pants should be the center of attention. They're going to carry the viewpoint of your longest lines, usually, unless you're a person with a longer torso. And so people are going to pay attention to those. With Steve Jobs, he threw on a pair of jeans because he knew that they were tough. He could move around in them. He didn't have to worry about them ripping or them having stains or anything like that on them that he would have to take to the dry cleaners. These were all things that he could just throw in the wash and get back to whatever he needed to get to. And so even though our scene right now is denim, it is jeans, right? It's the casual look, or the performance pants that got a little stretch to them, you know, and look like chinos but definitely are not in how you're moving. Now you have to think about the utility that you are seeking to express when you are interacting with people. Now, even though that we may be in this super casual work setting in today's society, you have to start considering who you want to be seen by, right? So just because everybody else is wearing jeans and t-shirts and sneakers, there's not going to be any edge or anything that's going to separate you from everybody else. But if instead of throwing jeans on, you happen to throw on a great pair of chinos that are still comfortable, that still look great, but have a slightly elevated type of look, well, now you're going to be thinking different. You're going to be moving different in these different types of spaces. And the great thing about a chino or a more utilitarian type of pant like that is that you can leverage that not only for the look, but still maintain the same type of utility that denim or jeans will provide. So now we have to talk about this iconic mock turtleneck that Steve Jobs used to rock all the time. All right, so we've already talked about the story behind how we got to the mock neck turtleneck, so we don't need to revisit that. But what I wanted to make sure that you're thinking about is the types of pieces that you're going to wear. Now, there's a wide diversity of different types of tops that you can wear. In the spring, summertime, it may be a linen shirt, it may be a cotton polo, it may be a button down, and in the fall and winter, it may be a wool polo, a flannel shirt, or a tartan type of shirt, or a standard dress shirt, which you can wear in all 4 seasons. But you should have an awareness of where it is that you want to go, because it's important to understand that a polo is going to express something different than a button down. A button down is going to express something very different than you having on a nice t-shirt, right? All these elements are going to speak to something unique. And I found it very interesting that Steve Jobs chose a mock turtleneck, because when I started to think about it, he was in California primarily. That's where his residence was. And anybody person who's visited California can tell you it'll be beautiful in the day and freezing at night, no matter if you're up north or in the south, the southern part of California. So it was a very interesting thought process, but there also was a level of sophistication in what he was wearing, despite it still being casual, because it wasn't really a t-shirt and it wasn't really a sweater. It was that mock neck that kept this sort of uniform type of look. Now, this is not to say that Steve Jobs designed it. We all know that he didn't, but he was aware enough whether it was subconsciously or consciously, of what he wanted to express. And the same thing should go for you. So if you know that you tend to be much more of a professionally driven type of person, or maybe your industry dictates that, don't deviate from that when you find yourself in social situations. Reinforce it. So instead of you throwing on a t-shirt, throw on a beautiful polo that you know will still provide a casual expression, but will still have a much more elevated type of look. And if you're a person who really likes to just make sure that they're put together, that doesn't mean that you have to be in some starch type of shirt. You can still have something that is going to be relaxed, even though it is a full button-up type of shirt. All right, so before I step out of a dressing room, there's one last element that I wanted you to think about, and that was the overall expression of what Steve Jobs was conveying when he put the look together. So he had the sneakers on, he had a pair of jeans on, and a mock turtleneck, but he also was paying attention, consciously or subconsciously, to the color scheme that he was thinking about. So he kept it very, very simple, sophisticated, and a little ominous with the black turtleneck. He had on a pair of faded Levi's jeans and a pair of gray sneakers. Now, the foundational principle was even killed. It was non-emotional. It was very, very analytical in its process with the gray shoes. And even when it came to his jeans, being that light faded blue color that had been worked in, it spoke to this level of hard work, of innovation, while still keeping things relatively casual. That he wasn't worried about the prominence, he was worried about the product. Much like we saw in his iconic pulling out of the iPhone.
An iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. An iPod, a phone. Are you getting it? These are not three separate devices. This is one device. And we are calling it iPhone. Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone. And here it is. No. Actually, here it is, but we're going to leave it there for now. So,
phone when that was unveiled. And then when we think about the black mock turtleneck, there was a level of sophistication not only in his image but also in the ingenuity of what he was creating, right? And how he was going to present this, that this was going to be sleek, it was going to be slick. And the initial iPhone was all black, right? So there was some uniformity even in that silent expression that he was creating. In that same way, you want to start thinking about how you can create the uniformity, not only in the style, but in the expression for how people experience you. Now, maybe you have a wide, diverse closet of clothing, but you've paid attention to several different colors that are going to work for you, or you're paying more attention to the types of fabrics that you tend to purchase and wear, and you're paying attention to the way that the silhouette or the styling of how you're putting on that look is presented. If you can start doing those small, subtle things, you'll start to see that people are experiencing you in a different way, in a light that says, oh, he has a uniform style. He's informing me about who he is and how he wants to show up, much like Steve Jobs did. So, as you can see, as you can see, Steve Jobs had a very simple expression, but still created an iconic image simply by understanding the importance of having a uniform and knowing how it put together, much like you do now after watching this video. So if you found the information beneficial, then make sure that you hit the thumbs up. And if you didn't like it, hit a thumbs down, but leave me a comment as to what you didn't like so I can make the improvements. Don't forget that this is a dressing room. We haven't stepped out on stage yet. So while you are improving your style, I want to improve my presentation. So I always appreciate any feedback that you provide. Outside of that, I want you to start this week by trying on a uniform, figuring out what your go-to looks are going to be when it comes to creating your own iconic style. You can just at me at Style Architects so that we can do a style breakdown if you're so inclined on your look and what it is expressing. And that way you'll also get some shine on your own personal style. Outside of that, be great today. But then again, you already are. So now all you have to do is show up and show out in style. And remember that dress is nothing more than the outward expression of a man's state of mind. So you, yes, you should always dress to address. I'll see you next time. Peace.